Hello, I am Adrienne Nikki Cobb, and you are watching My Wild Magic, and we are streaming live today for our July astrology with special guest Tiffany Harelik.
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good. So I've had people continually asking me, gosh, probably for several months now, gosh, what is going on? My physical body is doing this, and my emotions are doing that. So, it seems like there's a lot more intense times going on, a lot more cosmic downloads, which does fit into the astrology category of everything. And so I thought, maybe we'll just start doing something on a monthly basis to help people understand what is going on out there in a easy to understand way. So I wanted to give you a call, talk to you, invite you on. Thank you so much for being on. And just
I'm
to kind
so
of set that
happy.
conversation. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Astrology, it's one of those things where it's right in front of us. It's like written in the stars. There's information to access, and that I think the individual interprets it differently. So finding an astrologer that resonates with you, I think it's just you're watching the weather forecast through the lens of the cosmos, and so it's a psychological weather forecast. But yeah, I can definitely relate to those feelings of what's going on in the atmosphere. You feel it. There's an energy to it.
Yeah. And I find with people with really sensitive nervous systems, it affects our body too. Like all of a sudden we've got like digestive issue or a headache or we're tired. Then we're moody and then we're picking up on stuff and we're not sure why emotionally. But I do see because I talk to so many different people, like in a different, big group of people that, I'll notice themes starting to happen quite a
Yeah.
lot. Certain levels of depression or certain levels of people passing or making transitions or certain levels of certain types of emotions coming up too. So is there anything in July that you feel is standing out or significant? I mean,
Oh, totally. We're about 10 days in. So we just recently had a new moon in Cancer, and that new moon, of course, you think about the themes of Cancer being emotional intelligence, putting family first, redoing stuff in the house, creature comforts, hospitality, things like this are all forefront. But it was on two fixed stars. It was on two fixed stars that were fortunate. And so I feel like this new moon cycle, which goes over a 2.5 year period, we're still in that phase where something is kicking off. We're rehoming ourselves somehow. And so that new moon phase is effective, right now as we're talking. But the thing that is kind of the louder elephant in the room in July is that Mars and Uranus are right next to each other in the sky. In astrology, we call that a conjunction. It will be exact on July 15th, and it's exact on top of a fixed star called Algol. So Algol gets a really bad rap. It is represented by feminine hysteria. It is represented by it's the beheading star, and so there's a lot of off with their heads. And so people, I feel like there's a collective feeling of just kind of being done with something, reaching your limit, right? And having this really explosive way of understanding it, these aha moments. And so if I could break that part down a little further for us,
yeah.
Uranus is kind of like Einstein. There's this moment of electricity, there's ahas, there's brilliance. Uranus alone, not a bad guy. Mars alone, not a bad guy. Mars representing that primal side, that energy, blood flow, drive, more masculine side. When they're together and there's that gong crash of energy, it's like good news, bad news, who knows? But when you combine those two things, there's a lot of volatility. There's miswiring, there's misfiring, and it's on top of a challenging fixed star. So I feel like this period of the year is one to be really safe, really cautious, especially with pets, elderly, kiddos. Just this week, I've seen a wreck. I have seen a friend's home burn down. Not, I haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
I saw another person who had live wires in their street and they had to turn the electricity off. And it's just so clear once you look around.
That is
So
so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a tree come down, our electricity went out for a little bit, that
Mhm.
kind of thing too. And then in terms of the Cancer, the rehoming, I just got a new kitty. Let me see if I can pick
Oh.
him up. He might be picked up. Come here, kitty. Come here, kitty. So this is
Aw.
Barry.
Hi, kitty.
Yeah.
And my
Anyway, so
website got a new home. So it can
yeah,
be nurturing, it can be techy, the idea of rehoming yourself in some ways, or like
yeah,
you and I did a house clearing earlier today. So resetting the energy of the home. Right? It's like all of that is blended in the first 2 weeks of July.
interesting. Yeah. I just got off the phone with somebody who's needing to rehome themselves and all their animals too. And it's like, whoa. Yeah. And so do you find that when the Uranus and the Aries on top of this fixed star energy,
Hmm.
do you find that it can be a little bit, because of these types of planets, be a little bit more, like you said, electrical, but also a little bit more chaotic, or surprises, like you said, like house catches on fire and electrical powers go down? These are very, spontaneous type of changes.
Yeah,
Heartbreaking.
exactly.
Not something you would expect, basically.
No, and it's Uranus and Mars are in Taurus right now. So Mars is going to move into Gemini on July 20th through September 4th. So
Okay.
Mars will be a little bit more comfortable there in some ways. But it's in Taurus, which is an earth sign. And so I would expect to have earthy problems where things are lost, and I'm not an astrologer who looks for chaos or intrigue in what's wrong. I more like to report this so that you are extra aware while you're driving, that you are extra aware while you're leaving candles on or off or unplugging things. It's a safety precaution. And this isn't usual. This is a very intense time of the year. We're going to have another intense moment like this later in October, during eclipse season, as the United States leads up to their presidential voting. What am I trying to say?
Yeah. Yeah. That
But
thing you do every 4 years that upsets everybody. Yeah.
but because it's in an earth sign, I'm expecting more disturbances in the earth, with fire, right? And so electricity, things like this, Texas yesterday, I report from Texas, and I had several clients, several friends saying we have a statewide internet outage, which,
Wow.
is part of the hurricane touching down in our state. So Hurricane Barrel. So you don't know how it's going to come out, but you can not be afraid. You can be aware, and you can navigate a little bit more carefully than you might. Like maybe don't do the leftover 4th of July fireworks this week.
Yeah.
Maybe don't throw
Always.
your cigarette
Yeah.
out the window. Like I'm a beekeeper, so I have fire going at different times. So I'm going to be
Right.
more sensitive to that, right? I don't want to start something on accident, and just being really mindful. So I hope I haven't scared anybody, and I hope we've helped prevent some things that might have gone awry.
Well, so my mind goes to, well, when is this over? Like you said something
Right,
about
July 15th.
something July 15th.
Yeah, it
So
releases.
the energy till about July 15th. And then
Hmm.
then we'll sort of kind of move into a softer sort of energy flow, or this is going to be a longer stretch.
No, well, I think we're going to have intensity for a different reason. What else is interesting? There's two, I guess, more interesting points in July. On the 21st, we have a full moon, and it's in 29 degrees of Capricorn. This full moon is interesting because it's the second full moon in Capricorn in a row, and it's in 29 degrees, which is the anaretic degree. So in astrology, when something's in 29, we call it the anaretic degree. And there's an intensity to the 29. There's an intensity to Pisces because it has taken all of the lessons from all of the signs and built up. There's an intensity to Friday because you have all of the energy from the week that you're now recovering from in some ways. So the 29th degree, there's a certain intensity to it because it's at the very, very end of Capricorn. And this is where Pluto's hanging out right now. Pluto is at the end of Capricorn, beginning of Aquarius, right? So there's there's this power shift going on. Capricorn, it's our second full moon. It's in the anaretic degree. If you think about Capricorn, it's actually a feminine sign, which is so counterintuitive, because everything that, right? Like everything in pop astrology about Capricorn is ambition and business and organization and rise to the top and CEO, and it feels more masculine. But Capricorn's actually a feminine sign. And so I love to kind of work through some of the myths around Capricorn. Capricorn is the sea goat. So on top, it's looking at the horizon, making it to the top, but the bottom of the mythic character is under the sea, and very intuitive.
I did not know that.
And very sensitive. And my Capricorn folks are incredible healers. Some of my best healers are Capricorn people.
Yeah,
so
I have a Capricorn moon. So I'm an Aries with a Capricorn moon.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. So, I'm glad to know that about you. Yeah, it's a wonderful placement for healers, So there's excess energy under the full moon, and just like the new moon was on July 5th, each of these lunar cycles represent an anchor point in a larger 2.5-year cycle. So as we're looking at the full moon on July 21st, it is illuminating something that started back on January 21st of 2023. Wow. So if you guys keep calendars, journals, diaries, Google Calendar, you could look back and see, what was I doing on January 21st, 2023? What was the vibe like? What was I building? What were my intentions? And now, under the light of this full moon, more is revealed. You get maybe you get a little dream sequence. Maybe something occurs to you. Maybe a connection is being made. And then this particular lunar cycle will complete in April of 2025. I like to look at the Sabian symbol that is associated with each of the degrees, especially around the lunar cycles. And the Sabian symbols were created between an astrologer and a medium. And so it's an interesting thing to go play with and look at the Sabian symbols. But the
so what is the symbols? Like, what do they, give me an idea of what you mean? Is that the ones that say, this is a symbol for Aries, this is a symbol for Cancer, this is a symbol for Capricorn? Are those the Sabian symbols, or do you mean the ones for the stars?
It's a different system. It's a different system. And so each degree in the zodiac, there's 30 degrees in each sign. And so there's 12 signs. So there's 360 degrees. And so these are kind of channeled, I guess, through the medium and the astrologer that developed the Sabian symbols long ago. And so each, exactly, right? Like you always look at the Sabian symbol ahead of the degree that you're on. So there's a little bit of science to looking at it. But this full moon in Capricorn, July 21st, again, it's in 29 degrees Capricorn. So you read ahead, and the Sabian symbol is directors of a large firm meet in a secret conference. And so each of these.
So, yeah.
Right. It sounds like something's up, it sounds like something's interesting. As I was studying this earlier today, somebody texted me, hey, do you know that Katy Perry and Bill Gates bought Bragg's apple cider vinegar? And I said, no, I had no idea. But I would imagine that some of these types of large firm secret conference rooms, like there's things being bought behind the scenes.
Secret society. That's what I was thinking. Not cult, although that could fall into the same category, but secret societies could really, illuminate this type of energy, do really well.
Yeah, right. And we will see it in entertainment. We'll see it in what kind of films are coming out. We'll see it in media, if you're watching media, social media, your friends, things like this. You'll just start to be more aware of the themes. I think, if you're like, God, give me some good news, Tiffany, I think as we complete Cancer season and the sun moves into Leo on July 22nd, there's nothing wrong with Cancer season. We just had kind of a crescendo there. I feel like that's where we start to have this heart reset. Leo rules the heart. It's governed by the sun. It's a fire sign. And so there's a little bit more cheer, able to make light of things, able to kind of let some people off the hook, able to find that forgiveness muscle. The sun's in Leo July 22nd through August 23rd. So happy birthday to any Leos out there. And then as that's happening, Mercury moves into Virgo, where it likes to be. So this is supporting any intentions or wishes to have your home organized, to have things in order, processes, procedures, precision. This is all Mercury in Virgo, and Virgo rules pets. So I'm not surprised that you got a new pet and that you're letting it get reorganized. You're a couple weeks early on the energy, which you're an Aries, so that makes sense to be a little early on it. But yeah, towards the end of the month, Chiron will retrograde in Aries in your sign. And I feel like that, again, is like that heart reset, focusing on the heart-brain axis, not just the gut-brain axis, but the heart and brain axis is something that we can all do in terms of our self-healing and having this sigh of relief that comes later in the month. So, yeah.
So Nadine says she commented and she said that what she's aware of is that there's a big conference of uber wealthy happening in a Sun Valley, Idaho today.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I'm like, that'd be cool if we were just astrally projecting or soul traveling to see what's going on there as well. Hopefully for all good causes on behalf of the planet and the family of humanity.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when you go back to the Capricorn for a minute, so we're talking about that 29 degree in Capricorn, and Capricorn is also of Saturn, right? And that's when you get into the Saturn return. Like that's a common thing. Saturn return at about 29 years old, and again later in life, right? So is that having an impact on maybe people who have Capricorn high in their chart, or is the planet or the country or anything like that also being affected? Just the world as a whole.
Yeah.
With that Saturnian influence coming.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. So let's riff off that for a minute. Saturn, just like you guys, we all have birthdays. We have our solar return when the sun returns to the spot where it was in our chart when we were born. That's your birthday. It happens once a year. Mars returns every 2 years. So, we have the terrible twos. That's when that Mars anger, riles us up, and we have the toddlers that what happened to our little precious babies. Well, what you're talking about with Saturn is that it takes 27 to 30 years because of the retrograde cycles to make a full return. And so you see some of the artists of the world that have a really hard time with that age, 27 to 30. You see the people that are ready for responsibility and duty, they're like into being adults, into their maturity, into that next stage of life. And so Saturn has this influence that's more rigid. It's like, I always liken it to a military grandfather who's on time, and there's a sense of duty and responsibility. There's a sense of structure, which we all need. Saturn represents a part of us that is afraid, that has fear. So, wherever Saturn is in your chart, you can also identify a little area where you might want to do some self-growth. Like mine is in Libra. So a lot of people with Saturn and Libra have relationship, fear of abandonment, fear of relationship at some point through their growth journey. You don't have to experience that forever. I don't experience it forever, right? But the point is, it can show us something, reveal something from the subconscious that we might not have realized, and so as you're pointing out, Saturn governs Capricorn. So it could be, right, that there's some fears bubbling up for some people, especially having to do with their careers, their ambitions. Am I on path? Am I on the right track? Am I doing the right thing? There could be people feeling like they're kind of bitter about having to be responsible. They could be celebrating the duties that they're receiving. Capricorn is an earth sign. So anybody that has a responsibility to the earth, or that are earth stewards, or that want to have good gardens or beekeeping or anything like that, that's outside in the earth, taking care of our land, learning herbalism, learning about whatever, the crystals, anything that's of the earth, soil amendments, right? blessings and prayers for the literal soil that we have our food system in. So there's lots of ways to work with that Saturn energy that's really illuminated on this July full moon. Let's see. I wrote horoscopes for everybody, and I just, because you mentioned Capricorn, for Capricorn, I said the full moon in your sign illuminates more information on a topic that's been bothering you. What can you see now that you can't unsee? That speaks to that Uranus Mars thing. You're going to see something that you can't unsee. You can't go backwards. You got to go forwards, and you need to implement these action steps, right?
So that would be a big theme then for in our present moment for July, is opening up that inner vision to see the truth maybe about something, or to see something that you haven't been willing to see before, or that you're just or capable of seeing maybe now.
Totally. You know, like we were talking about this morning, the vision beyond the vision, right? What's after that? Yeah, I see Shannon's comment here that those of you born in 65 are having your last Saturn return. So this is a good point. So Saturn makes its return from 27 to 30 it'll double. So when you're 60-ish, right? When you're 90-ish, you'll have a Saturn return. When you're 120-ish, you'll have a Saturn return. That's Saturn making its whole way around the chart. But every 7 years, we've heard of the 7-year itch. So Saturn needs to make a square at 7 years. At 14, it'll make an opposition.
Okay.
Right? At 21, it'll make another square, and then it gets back between 27 and 30. So, you know, that 7-year itch could be popping up for some people too, for sure.
Right. Yeah, so cool. So so we are in the time of Cancer right now for July. So anything for people who either are Cancer or, you know, have Cancer high in their chart?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. So for Cancer, I wrote the new moon in your sign gives you an astrological new beginning. What do you want to change and start fresh this month? So let me just scroll up. It was in 14 degrees of Cancer. And so Cancer rules the hearth in the home, and it's much more fun to talk about recipes and home cooking. And I did a bunch of canning and preservation from the garden. That's all very Cancer hearth home vibes. But there could also be themes around real estate, you know, changing. Some people might be into real estate or selling or buying, or something like this is changing with real estate. My cousins just listed my grandmother's homes, right? And so that's a shift, that's a change, that's an ending and a beginning, a pathway within a pathway around home and memories and nostalgia. If you have stockpiled all your family photos, or you're wanting to create new memories, you know, these themes around nostalgia are always fun to play with this time of year. You know, Cancer's a water sign, and where I live, it's really hot. So I always recommend people spend more time in water, blessing water, around water, lakes, streams, rivers, oceans, cool baths with pretty colors in them, stuff like that. This new moon, the Sabian symbol was a group of people who have overeaten and enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it. That's all that counts at the end of the day, right? Is that you've enjoyed that overeating experience. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So so my cousin Steven actually says the planet alignment on July 4th weekend was interesting. So do you know anything about an alignment from July 4th?
I think he's just talking about what you could see in the sky. Astrologically, I'm not sure, because I didn't write anything super exciting about like the aspects or the transit. So I wonder if he's talking about what you could see from Earth in the sky.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, all those things lining up. Yeah. And then Kathy Frost asked if she could just hear her Libra horoscope for the moment.
Yeah, Kathy. Absolutely. So what's going on with Libra, right, is that Chiron will retrograde shortly in Aries, which is opposite of your sign, right? Right. And so it's going to illuminate something that needs to be said, something that needs to be forgiven, an amends that needs to be made. It's that return to the heart space. You know, not just because you're a Libra, but because of the placement, I feel like it will have to do with your significant other, or a past lover, or a best friend, or somebody that you're really close with. there may be something that you didn't even know they were upset about that comes up, and it might catch you off guard, right? Or you might be upset about something that catches you off guard. But that Chiron retrograde to me offers a moment of forgiveness, peace, healing. Chiron, the pop culture talks about Chiron as the wounded healer. And while that is a true aspect of Chiron, while I'll talk about the wounded healer, the next layer of Chiron is it represents our soulmates. It is a deep study of the people that we really, really have the deepest human bonds with. Anybody that wants to study Chiron in that way, I would recommend they look at the work of the Magi astrologers. And Melanie Reinhardt also writes a lot about Chiron as the wounded healer. And so my interpretation of that, right, is like you have a medicine bag that you earned, right? Like you have a pain or a wound that you had to overcome, you had to learn something difficult about. And because of that, you have your own medicine bag and you can help that next person behind you. So being a good big sister, a good big brother, a good person in the tribe of humanity, you use your medicine bag and say, hey, I've been there. I recognize that. Come this way. Let me put you under your wing. I got you. You can walk through this. And so Chiron really helps with that. There are many different myth stories about Chiron. The one that I kind of hang on to is where, Chiron is a centaur.
Okay.
And all the other centaurs I think of in my mind is like these football throwing, pizza eating, jock characters, sporty. But Chiron wasn't. Chiron was a nerd, and he sat on the side of the mountain with his little glasses and his little pedicure, and he was learning about acupuncture and herbs and all of these different healing, esoteric arts, right? And so Chiron, during one of the Wars of the Gods, was developing his poison arrows, okay? And so he's dipping these arrows in poison. He's handing it over to one of the gods. He drops it on his foot, on his hoof. And so he has the opportunity, he has the choice to say, I'm going to stay in pain forever and live here, or I'm going to die and transcend this pain, right? And so Chiron represents a part of us that is small, vulnerable, hurt, wounded, a little nerdy, right? And it also represents a part of us where we have to let go of the life that we thought we had in order to transcend and have something else. And it hurts.
That's powerful.
It is.
For any of us, right? Yeah.
And it's in your sign, Adrian. It's in Aries. The Chiron retrograde is happening in Aries, but it's
Chiron
opposing
in Aries too. Yeah, it's all stacked up there. Yeah. Wow. So, so if anybody wanted to get in touch with you to do maybe more of a personalized reading, or learn about beekeeping or publish books, you do so many cool things. You are my book publisher. You are, just an extraordinary human being, and astrology teacher. You teach all kinds of intuitive and psychic classes and human design. So how can people get in touch with you and your plethora of what you offer?
Right. So I have a new website home, thanks to our friend Judith for helping me. Thank you, Judith.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to type it in. It's my name, Tiffany Harelik. And I'm going to type it in. I think we can pin it, but it's TiffanyHarelik.com. And I would love to help you guys. Looks like I'm having trouble connecting, so I don't know, but maybe you got it.
My end. I see it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so one more question before we go there is my cousin Stephen again, who's in Germany. What should those of the water bear be anticipating? So that's going to be the January. He is a Aquarius, I believe.
Okay, so Aquarius is an air sign. Is that what he is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Aquarius is interesting because Pluto is retrograding in 1 degree of Aquarius, right? So that's interesting, and it activates 3 fixed stars, which are I'm not going to try to pronounce them, but the significance of them are being opinionated, contemplative, and impulsive, and they indicate fortune. So it could be you roll the dice, it could be that you take a chance on yourself. It could be that you need to notice what you're ruminating about, what you're giving your power to, Pluto. Again, what feels nostalgic, what feels like a red flag, and really pay attention the first time. If you find yourself ruminating, it's like do all the tricks to get out of that, because it's not going to be supportive for you. Just change the channel, clap your hands, turn a song on, change the what you're listening to in your mind, right? Practice meditation, practice changing your thoughts. So yeah, I feel like Aquarius, there's a gift of distance, emotional distance from what's happening in the world and what's happening in their lives. That can be a gift, but it can also be a curse when you're too unplugged. And so striking that balance between using your intuition and then also just staying away from topics altogether. If I could just say like one thing for Aquarius, I would say, yeah, I think I would say, let's see, for Aquarius, I would say, what's your, it has to be about Pluto and power. What is your resource? What's your power source? And that's where I would stay focused on, because something is in reverse gear. Something's keeping you curious, and you want to make some changes, and you can see that it's actually quite far away, and that's where the frustration is. Like, something needs to be done, but there's a time that's you can't quite put your finger on. Well, go back to this new moon cycle, Stephen. I would just say, like, this new moon cycle started now, and it will not complete until October of 2026. Okay. So what you're ruminating on right now, like, push it out there and give space for grace and something else to co-create and happen. Yeah, I would expect some big changes for our Aquarius. So if you're making a big move, if you are making big changes,
2026, yeah,
rolling the dice. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tiffany also offers astrocartography. So I've had several people also looking at where they should move, where they should live, because their life is in transition and they're looking for where to go. And sometimes you can really align that with where they are in terms of your location as well. So she does all kinds of really cool things. So check her out, tiffanyharelik.com. And then you can also check out what I offer at mywildmagic.com. And angel readings and all kinds of cool stuff. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany, for joining us and giving us like a little synopsis of the cosmic universe today. And we're going to be having Tiffany on monthly. So we'll have her on monthly.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I appreciate it. If anybody's watching this later, I have, the horoscope is on my blog. So if you're going to tiffanyharelik.com, just go to the blog, find the July forecast, and you can find your sign and enjoy it.
Yeah, and she does tarot readings every Friday and a horoscope for all the signs every month, and that's also at her website.
Yeah.
Right?
Sweet. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I love talking about astrology, and I love hanging out with you, and you just have the coolest people around. So thank you for the opportunity to chat today.
Yeah, so much fun. All right. I hope everybody benefited greatly from this, and we shall talk to you later. Okay. Till next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.